Okay friends, now we have understood, try to have a shared understanding of what this project means. Now let's get deep dive into this project and look at another concept that we are again familiar with is the project cycle. What is a project cycle? Now we all know a project has a definite start and a definite end. That's what is the basic of a project. It will have a definite start and it will have a definite end. Now we all know when we think of projects, when we are designing projects or any project, it goes through a various stages while from its start to its end. So any project goes through these various stages, and this various stages cumulative, we call it as a project cycle. Now what are these stages that a project goes through? Let's think of those stages. Yes, we sometimes say we start with need analysis, sometimes we say we start with situation analysis or a problem analysis or a gap analysis, then we design a project. With that we execute it, implement, monitor, and finally we evaluate it. Okay, that's fine. Let's take a simple analogy. We all usually go to buy, let's say, a weekly groceries or a weekly market that we try to get vegetables for a week or something. It's also a project. There is a duration for which we apportion resources and try to complete an objective. What is the first thing that we do when we think of, let's say, buying vegetables for a week? Okay, the usual answer we would have is we try to develop a list. Okay, so we know how many kgs of onions, how many kgs of potatoes and all those things, cauliflowers and all, how much we have to bring. But let me ask you a question. Is it the first thing that we usually do? Just take a moment and think about the way you go about the business. No, it's not the first thing that we do. The first thing usually is we'll try to open the fridge door and see what is there, because what is there will tell us what is not there. So the need is basically determined by what is there. That usually is our first step, the basis of forming the list, what we need to purchase and all. And this first step of opening the fridge, technically we call it as situation analysis. We try to see what is there. The answer situation analysis provides is not what is not there or what is the gap, but the first thing we have to know is what is there or what the existing situation is. And with this existing situation, we try to see what is the problem in that situation, what is wrong in that situation. If there is something wrong, the fridge is half stocked, yes, then there is a need to buy vegetables. But what if the fridge is fully stocked? There is no problem, so we don't have to have a project. So with this situation analysis will tell you whether there is a need of a project or not. Okay, and that the need usually comes by an analysis, what we call as problem analysis. If we find that there is a situation which is making us unhappy, then why that problem is, why the situation is there a problem in that existing situation? So here in this my case of my example of the vegetable buying, my problem is I have insufficient stock to last for a week. Now because there is a problem, I need to address that problem, and first I have to know what is causing that problem. So essentially problem analysis is about trying to develop a cause-effect relationship between what is there in the situation and what is causing that problem. So once we know this cause-effect relationship, then we try to address that the causes of those problems by designing a project, which essentially what we usually see is developing the list of things that needs to be bought. This is where we think about what is our objectives, what are our goals, what are our activities, what are our budgets, and last but not least, how we going to monitor these projects. Once we have developed this design, we actually go about business of buying those things, or to say we implement the project. And while implementing, what we do? We monitor the project. And once the implementation is complete, then we try to see whether the thing that we started with has changed or not. Evaluate whether the things have improved or not, or whether the fridge that was half empty is fully stocked or not. So, end of any project is evaluation. What was the first step? Situation analysis. We opened the fridge and tried to see whether it is stocked or not. And end of the day, end of our whole cycle, we are trying to evaluate, essentially meaning again opening the fridge and trying to see whether the situation has changed or not. This was the first step, this is the last step. Essentially, they are one and the same thing. So, how we have gone about this project? We analyze the situation, identify the problem, then design a project accordingly, execute that project. End of our execution, we evaluate the project. Essentially, try to see whether the situation has changed or not. Can you see some similarity between evaluation and situation analysis? Yes, they are one and the same thing. This again we do by opening the fridge, this again we do by opening the fridge. So, situation analysis and evaluation are essentially, or to say situation analysis is the first evaluation that we took. I hope we are all familiar with one word, baseline. Essentially, I will add one more word to that, baseline evaluation, and say end of the project evaluation. So, where it all starting with? The first thing that we are starting a project cycle visit is a sort of evaluation or the baseline evaluation. And after we execute all these activities, again we are doing this evaluation. So, all through the project cycle, we are starting the project cycle with an evaluation and completing the project cycle with an evaluation. So, where all is M&E? It is all across. Monitoring and evaluation is at the start of the project, and it is all through the project and at the completion of the project. That is why once we are trying to get deep into the fundamentals or the nitty-gritty of monitoring and evaluations, we have to understand what a project is and what a project is like. Then we can better appreciate the fundamentals of monitoring and evaluation. And as we see, every project starts with an evaluation. All through the cycle, we have monitoring, and at the end of the project, we have an evaluation. So, this in nutshell is a generic project cycle explaining to us what is the importance of monitoring and evaluation in a project. So, essentially, the cycle of the project is we start with situation analysis, analyze the problem to know the causes, design a project to address that causes, execute the project, and while executing implement the activities, and end of our project we try to evaluate, try to see whether the situation that we started with has improved or not. This in nutshell is our generic project cycle. We have set up our objectives, we have set up our goals, we have set up our budgets, we have set up our timelines, and most importantly set up our monitoring and evaluation frameworks. Then we go about executing the activities. While we are executing, we are also doing one very important thing, that is monitoring. So, we implement and monitor. Implementation and monitoring essentially go hand in hand, and once our activities are implemented or the implementation is complete, we go about evaluating the project to see that whether the situation has changed or not. If I take you back, the first step was again trying to know what the situation is, and at the end of the completion we want to know whether the situation has changed or not. That is what is evaluation. So, the first step was again an evaluation, and the last step was again an evaluation. So, to say monitoring and evaluation cuts across all the components of project cycle, and that is why it is very important to understand monitoring and evaluation in this project cycle context, so that we can do justice to the monitoring and evaluations, and end of the day deliver efficient projects, efficient results.